The Chosen has gone from the Passion of Christ levels of narrative and artistic liberties to that god-awful Noah movie. There's a huge difference between taking some artistic liberties to portray the cultural context as to why certain things happen in the Bible versus creating entire fictional characters that completely change the trajectory and emotional and moral context of major events in the Bible. At this point, Chosen has gone from biopic to straight up historical fiction. I'm trying to gauge as to whether this has started to happen or this has always been the case and I just didn't notice it until now as I'm maturing in my walk with Christ. I was somebody that got very annoyed when people had these types of criticisms of The Chosen, you know, not being based in scripture, that everything is not the same, that they're adding some artistic liberties in there, that they're changing certain things culturally to world build so that we can understand the cultural context of what it meant to be a Jew under Roman conquest. I'm a huge fan of the show. To be honest, in my prodigal son days where I was not going to church, I was walking away from Christ, as I began coming back into that relationship with Christ, it was watching The Chosen that made me inspired to go back and check to see what happened and what didn't happen in this show. And that show really inspired me to take more looks at the life of Jesus and deepened my walk. I was in a very dark time where I didn't know where I was gonna live, where I was gonna wind up, a season of exile. For those of you that don't know, you can kind of look at my testimony video. But I used to study a lot of bushcrafting stuff, especially in this season of my life. And I was looking at this guy who was living very nomadically, and he had sheep that would graze with him, and he would live off the land. He didn't really use money. He only bartered. And someone in the comments said, you know, don't take this to be idolatry or anything. I'm not idolizing you or anything, but you just remind me so much of how I would imagine Jesus were to be, you know, being a shepherd yourself, being nomadic and living off of, you know, very little, yet being so wise. And then someone in the comments was like, hey, have you seen The Chosen? This is actually a show based off of just Jesus doing everyday human things. You know, this is the first show that really explores not just the divinity of him as someone who's like untouchable and someone who's like not down to earth, but someone who is a more grounded Jesus who is both fully God and fully human. And you can see him, you know, making campfires, talking to children, making jokes, laughing, eating. A Jesus that we don't really get to see much in any other movie or media portrayal of him. So I'm like, The Chosen, let me look that up. That's interesting. And so I look it up at my now wife, who then we weren't married at the time yet. I had told her about this show that I had heard of, and I looked it up. I'm like, hey, it's actually free to watch. Let's go ahead and watch it. And it was a beautiful show. Like, it was very inspiring. It got me so intrigued to see Jesus portrayed in this way, because a lot of times we forget that Jesus was human, right? So this show is very important to me. It's very special to me. It's close, near, and dear to my heart. It's one of my favorite shows that I have ever watched. And to see it take this direction is getting a little bit worrisome. To continue on with my personal testimony of this show, we watched season 1, we watched season 2, and when season 3 came out, we were so excited that this was gonna get continued and that it was gonna be showing in theaters. So we went to go watch every single episode when it came out in theaters. So me and my wife have been supporting the show since before we were even married. Season 4 comes out, we're stoked. We got our tickets in advance, like a whole month in advance. So I'm sitting in the theater and Dallas Jenkins comes on with a special message before the show even starts, which I've always appreciated, that it feels very personal. It feels like, you know, hey, this is what we're presenting to you. It feels like a labor of love. And there's always like a little special message before and after or in between the little intermissions that they have between the episodes anytime there's some kind of chosen event at the theater. And so Dallas Jenkins is like, hey, so there's a big twist that happens at the end. Please don't talk about it on social media. Don't spoil it for others, but there's a twist at the end. And me and my wife kind of looked at each other, and I was like, well, what would surprise us? Like, what major twist would surprise us? I mean, we've read the Bible, so You know, anybody that's read the Bible, it's a story that's already gotten told. So what's, you know, I wasn't thinking much of it, but I was just confused as to why there would be a twist in something that's supposed to be a visual depiction of what everybody already knows happened in the Bible, right? I've been wanting to make this video for a while now. It's shown in theaters. It's already live streamed. I'm dead spoiling it, I promise you. Sorry, not sorry. So Rayma dies. Rayma gets killed at the end, right? Not only does she get killed, when Jesus comes back from all the commotion that was occurring during this teaching he was giving when he was confronting the Pharisees, he sees her on the floor dying. I don't even think she was dead yet. And Thomas is like, do something. And Jesus says, I'm sorry. It's like there's no explanation. Jesus looks like he's almost surprised or caught off guard that this happened, as though he didn't know that this was supposed to happen. Or it was just weird. It just felt really out of left field. It just felt like something that shouldn't have happened. The last season took some liberties, right? With Simon Peter's wife having the miscarriage.
How could he let something like this?
Whoa, that's not the right way to think about it.
Happened to Eden. Happened to me.
And that being the reason why he was mad at Jesus, and that being the reason why he was doubting when he went to go walk on water. That already is a little bit muddy. Now that I see this and look back, I'm like, that's a little bit weird, because the whole theology that we get from that is that human beings, no matter how faithful these disciples were, no matter how trusting they were in Jesus, still Simon took his eyes off Jesus, and Jesus said, man of little faith, why did you doubt, right? Why did you take your eyes off me? You know, I'm paraphrasing here. That we all fall short of the glory of God. That no matter how much faith we have, we still lack. But this was recontextualized as he was doubting because his wife had a miscarriage, and he was mad at Jesus this whole time. Because, you know, he's like, we're performing all these miracles, but where's my miracle? What's going on? How could you let this happen to me? You know, it felt like a modernization. Like, it felt like something from our eyes, like stuff that we say to God. Like, why is everyone else getting a miracle? Why do I have to suffer? But at least the pinnacle part, like the climax of that arc, right, was something that was biblical. Peter walking on water with Christ. Now in this arc, between these 3 episodes, right, that are out right now, which showed in theaters, the major climax to this arc was something that was entirely fictional. Entirely fictional. And this whole episode, the whole thing was like, hey, sometimes God doesn't answer prayers and we don't know why. That was kind of like the motif of it, because they had a flashback to David fasting and praying that his son might not die. And it was prophesied to him that his son would die. The whole reason why his son was going to die was because he sinned. He committed adultery and murder. Yet this is never mentioned. And when his son dies, his wife comes in and is like, why hasn't God answered the prayer? David was like, I don't know. Sometimes he doesn't answer prayers. I don't know. It's not like this is a punishment that I was warned about for committing adultery and murder. Let's not forget that adultery and murder in those times was supposed to be punishable by death. We're supposed to empathize with David and be mad at God to say, why isn't God answering these prayers? It feels like the entire first 3 episodes of season 4, it's like everybody's just mad at Jesus. And I don't remember everybody being so mad at Jesus. I don't remember his disciples being this mad at Jesus and constantly doubting this much in the Bible, right? And people are saying like, oh, this is good character development. This is like to develop the doubting Thomas thing. Thomas did not doubt any more than any other disciple. The whole doubting Thomas thing, like we just pinned that on him. And this idea that a good reason needs to be placed on Thomas for him to doubt is a little weird. Humans doubt. Why? Because we are blind. We don't see what God is doing. We doubt what God is doing. I think this is too far. I think it's too much. To take artistic liberties as to like what people are wearing, the relationship between the centurion and Matthew, the fact that Matthew is very obviously on the spectrum, certain things like that that don't entirely change the trajectory of a relationship with characters, something that is not like a major event in the Bible, something that doesn't recontextualize a major event like Peter walking on water, something that's not like literally someone's wife dying in front of Jesus and Jesus choosing not to heal that person. That's a big thing. You're putting something that's fictional, that's a very big characterizing moment, and saying, yeah, this is what God would do. This is what Jesus would do in this moment. In this very moment, Jesus would do this. I think you're getting into some troublesome waters there. You could say Jesus preferred his wine a little bit on the drier side or made with cherries instead of grapes. You want to do stuff like that that's not changing too much? Fine. You want to say, hey, Jesus wanted a blue sash instead of a red one or a purple? You want to do that? I'm going to let it go. But to include this head-scratching moment, this record-scratching moment of somebody dying, and this fictional character having such an emotional twist, everybody walked out of there confused. Everybody walked out of there confused. Like, I was in the theater and it was just quiet. Everybody was either crying or had their jaw wide open, or was just darting their eyes back and forth like, nah, she gonna come back to life, right? Or like, is this is really how they gonna end it? Like they're gonna take that route, right? Because if they think that this is okay to do, what else? What they gonna do next, right? Are they gonna start switching up what the two male factors said on the cross next to Jesus now? Are they gonna have Mary Magdalene have a crush on Jesus because a lot of people have had the theory that they were married or something? You know, how far are they gonna go with some of these artistic liberties? It doesn't help that there was already a controversy because back when Dallas Jenkins was working with Angel Studios, they've already split. That might be a positive thing as far as publicity goes, and you'll see why in a moment. But there was a controversy between Angel Studios and The Chosen because there was a time where Jesus said in season 3, I am the law of Moses.
If you do not renounce your words, we will have no choice but to follow the law of Moses.
I am the law of Moses.
And people were like, wait, that's not in the Bible. But sure, the Jesus in The Chosen says plenty of things here and there. In passing conversation, says jokes that are not in the Bible. So why that? Number one, that was a key moment for him to say that to the Pharisees. Number two, it is written somewhere. It's written in the Book of Mormon. Jesus says, I am the law. Dallas Jenkins is not Mormon, but Angel Studios is run by Mormons. The main creators and producers, the founders, are Mormon, right? They have a huge compound. I think it's in Utah. You know, Mormons have all of this land that they allow Dallas Jenkins and the whole Chosen crew to film on. Let's not get it twisted, okay? I know Angel Studios, they gave complete artistic and creative liberty to Dallas Jenkins. They have no bearing on how he's making his stuff narrative-wise, creative-wise. So this is all on him, but it's really sloppy to say, hey guys, I'm not a Mormon, me as Dallas Jenkins, like, not Mormon. I support my Mormon brothers and sisters. That's also a statement to say. People got mad at saying that because Mormons don't believe that Jesus is the one true God, right? They don't believe in the Trinity. They don't believe in a lot of core basis of Christianity. So most Christians will tell you Mormons are not Christian. So for Jesus to come out and say, I am the law of Moses, and the only place that can be found is in the Book of Mormon, it's a really bad look. It's a really bad look. The only thing close to Jesus saying that in the biblical canon is saying, I have not come to abolish the law, but to fulfill the law. So Jesus is the fulfillment of the law. Jesus never explicitly says, I am the law of Moses. Right? I mean, it's not really contradictory for him to say that. I mean, I am the fulfillment of the law. I am the law, like saying that the law is describing Jesus. But it's the fact that that's in the Book of Mormon that got people saying like, so you're taking inspiration from the Book of Mormon, even after making a statement. That turned a lot of people off from watching The Chosen because they're like, all right, this is going in a direction that's weird for me. I was still on board, right? I'm like, well, that just because Hitler also brushes his teeth don't mean that I can't brush my teeth, right? Just because the Book of Mormon says that Jesus is the law of Moses, as long as it doesn't contradict the core tenets of faith within Christianity, it's fine to use that. But now I'm just like, this is starting to get weird. It's going in a weird direction. Y'all are having these fictional characters have these fictional key big moments with Jesus that mischaracterize Jesus, or they make assumptions about what Jesus would do in such a big moment like this. And then you recontextualize moments like King David fasting and saying, you know, sometimes God doesn't answer prayers, knowing darn well that his son died because he was told his son would die because of his sin. But none of that is mentioned. We have Simon Peter being mad at Jesus and doubting because his wife had a miscarriage. That's not in the Bible, but it's injected into that narrative. So at this point, when I watch The Chosen, it's just pure entertainment. I can't watch this as Christian content. I can't watch this as a biopic. I can't really watch this as truly a visual depiction of what happened in the Bible. I now have to watch this as this is purely entertainment. This is Christian flavored entertainment. But the issue is, when you have that weird thing between biopic and historical fiction, it's best when we have fictional characters, like all fictional characters, and there may be some background characters like political figures that are not at the forefront of that story. When you have Jesus as the forefront and his disciples, that's gonna create confusion. I've already had moments between my wife where we quote something from The Chosen thinking that it's from the Bible, and then we got to catch ourselves like, wait a minute, that's actually just in The Chosen. That didn't actually happen in the Bible. If you go check out my Jordan Peterson video, there was a guy that quoted Mary Magdalene saying something that never actually happened in the Bible, but he quoted it from The Chosen. The video is not about The Chosen. He was saying it as though it was something that the disciple actually said. So I think that this show is going to cause confusion. Creators of The Chosen, if you just so happen to see this in my little old videos on YouTube, I'm a big fan of the show. I support it after the whole Mormon thingy. Y'all are not with Angel Studios anymore, so that creates distance between y'all. I'm still a fan of the stuff that Angel Studios does. The Shift, top 5 movie of all time. The Chosen, top 5 series of all time. This is a great opportunity to ground this into scripture. Don't drag it out with filler and conjecture and fictional stuff. Don't feel like you have to fill it up with all this jokes and entertainment to bring people in. We're fans of the show. We want to see Jesus, but we want to see a little bit more of an accurate depiction of Jesus. I'm not the only one to say that this show is starting to have too much conjecture, and I think with this, it's taking it too far. It's taking it too far to assume that this is exactly what Jesus would have done in this moment, and then using a fictional character, I think you're going into muddy waters now. But like I said, that's just little old me in my YouTube videos. That was just my little rant on it. Let me know what y'all think in the comments. Still gonna watch The Chosen. Still curious to see where this show goes. I would love to see where it goes for the rest of the season. It's your biggity boy, the priest from the East Almonte, Nova from Jehovah. I'ma did holla at y'all.